Good evening, everybody in here, out there on the YouTube channel, watching Local Democracy in Action. Welcome to this meeting of Full Council of North Hertfordshire. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to update you on the systems being used and confirm that officers in remote attendance are present.
Good evening. Can I confirm the following officers are attending remotely and can hear us and that we can hear them? Richard Beasley.
Good evening, yes, present.
Good evening. Neil Parlett. Rules of debate. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the chair invites you to speak, your microphone will be made live and will turn red, at which point you can speak. The normal procedure rules in respect of debate and times to speak will apply. Voting. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? I will now hand back to the chair.
Thank you, Susan. I have received apologies for absence from councillors Lisa Nash, Caroline MacDonald, Bryony May, Tim Johnson, Ruth Clifton, Rona Cameron, Sadie Billing, Kathy Brownjohn and David Barnard. Are there any further apologies? Councillor Barnes, Matt.
Councillor Collins.
Councillor Sam Collins, okay. That's it. Thank you. Okay, you've got two lots of minutes attached, so I'd like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meeting of Annual Council held on the 22nd of May and the Extraordinary Council, they're all extraordinary, aren't they, on the 10th of June. So can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Daniel Allen, thank you, Dan. Then we'll go to the vote unless there are any comments. Can we take them as read? Yes, let's take them as read by acclamation, I think. Thank you. Right. Notification of other business. There's been no other business advised. And then we go on to Chair's announcement. There are the standard announcements and there are a few extras today. So we'll get through the standard ones first. Recording in accordance with council policy, this meeting is recorded. The recordings will be available on both the council's YouTube page as well as the council's ModGov site alongside the documentation from the meeting. Climate emergency and ecological emergency. Members are reminded that this council has declared both a climate emergency and an ecological emergency. These are serious decisions and mean that, as these are emergencies, all of us, officers and members, have that in mind as we carry out our various roles and tasks for the benefit of our district. More details are included on the agenda front sheet. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. The rules of debate. Please can I remind you that the normal procedure rules in respect of debate and times to speak will apply. No speeches may be made after the mover has moved a motion and explained the purpose of it until the motion has been seconded. When seconding a motion or amendment, a member may reserve their speech until later in the debate. In accordance with the Constitution, please can members ensure that no speech exceeds 3 minutes without the consent of the chair, not unreasonably withheld, of course. Comfort break for the purposes of clarification. 4.8.23a of the Constitution does not apply to this meeting. Therefore, a member may leave the room during the debate and consideration of that item and be able to vote. However, please be mindful of the business on the agenda and wherever possible, leave at an appropriate point in the proceedings. I'll take a comfort break at an appropriate time in the meeting should proceedings continue at length. Right, agenda order. I've played musical chairs with the agenda, colleagues, I'm afraid, because we have consultants with us this evening on 2 items, and I'm unsure whether they charge by the hour. So we've moved them up the agenda. I've agreed to change in the order of the published agenda. Agenda items 14, 15 and 16, Churchgates Part 2 and Part 1, will now take place following agenda item 6. This will be followed by agenda item 7, Community Governance Review, and then I will take agenda items 17 and 18, questions and motions from members. We will then finally take agenda items 8 to 13. Clear as mud, I'm sure, but I will remind people on as we move on. Right, we have a couple of long service awards, which I'm delighted to talk about, and then unfortunately 3 bereavements, which I'm very sad to talk about, but we'll do the long service awards first. Oh, Daniel Allen, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Not a problem, Chair. Just a question as to why we've gone against our agreed principles of having questions and motions at the end after having the important business of the council done first.
I just wanted to try something different and see if it worked any better. If it doesn't, then we'll revert, particularly as I was changing around the consultants' blocks as well. Long service award, Ros Allwood. Many of you will know Ros Allwood, who is the pillar of the Community and Cultural Services Museum. Today we proudly celebrate a milestone, Ros's 30 years of dedicated service with North Herts Council. Ros started with North Herts in 1995 after replying by post to an advertisement posted in the Museum's Journal. In November 2004, Ros transitioned to the role of museum manager, where she quickly became an integral part of the enterprise team. Ros's contributions have been nothing short of outstanding. She played a key role in securing the grant of £1 million for the Museum Town Hall capital refurbishment project. Her passion for art has been a driving force behind our ability to secure exhibitions such as the Rembrandt exhibition, one of the most notable artists in world history, and that exhibition just doesn't happen anywhere. There are countless hurdles to overcome, and a tremendous amount of work was involved to ensure the exhibition was done correctly. Beyond her achievements, Ros's unwavering dedication to promote the latest museum exhibition and assisting to secure a new museum store has left a positive impact on the team, with colleagues referring to Ros as a dynamo that never stops, often staying late or working on days off. Her commitment and enthusiasm has helped shape the museum in ways that will continue to benefit everyone for years to come. Ros, thank you for your incredible 30 years of service and the passion you bring to your role every day. We are truly grateful to have you as part of the team, and I sincerely mean that. I think Ros has been equally frustrated that she's still waiting for museum storage, having waited for her new museum for so many years as well, but at least she's almost there. And she had the privilege of opening the museum in 2019 and seeing it established as an absolute beacon of excellence in the area, in that field. Okay, I would like to propose that the Council place on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Ros Allwood for her long and valuable service to local government. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Alan Daniel.
I'm very happy to second this. Ros is an absolute addition to North Herts Council. Ros gives us an absolute breadth of experience and gives us the support to really shout about what we have. In North Herts District Council's museum facilities, we have got millions of items, and I can guarantee Ros pretty much knows each one of them. Yes, we are so lucky. So thank you, Ros, for all the support you've given us. Thank you, second.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else wish to comment? Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo what you said about her passion. I first met Ros when I visited the North Herts Museum for the first time when I was probably a relatively new councillor. She made me very welcome and demonstrated her passion for it. But a particularly notable occasion was when I think it was during COVID actually, or just post-COVID. I actually went to North Herts Museum for an afternoon tea on my birthday, and she gave me a very special personal welcome. And for that, I thank her. And the other thing I'd like to thank her for is her commitment to Royston Museum. So Royston Museum it needed a bit of a sort out, and she came and helped us. Then we had some problems over our museum manager, and she helped us through some really sticky patches and showed a lot of commitment and support to our staff there. So I want to put on record our thanks in Royston for her support.
Thank you, Ruth. And Ralph Munster.
Thank you, Chair. And could I just echo the comments that both Councillor Allen and Councillor Brown have made? It's so important that we know our history and that we learn from it, because that is how we shape our future. And it certainly seems that Ros has done an absolutely superb job at making sure that people in North Hertfordshire know and understand our history, and ensure that we're better informed of it. It's certainly an exciting time for the museum service at the moment, with potential options for the museum storage being looked at. So I'm sure Ros is going to be very, very happy about that. And I'm sure she will look forward to taking forward that project. But on behalf of the Conservative Group, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. I'm going to suggest that, again, we acclaim that one. I can't see that there's any reason to go to a formal vote on it unless I have to, but I think we're all of one mind here. So we have grateful thanks to Ros. Our second long service award is perhaps somebody who's not quite as in the public eye, to Amy Jarmain. Amy started her journey at North Herts as a support assistant in leisure services, working for the parks, open spaces and cemeteries. A year later, she moved into the front-facing arena of revenues and benefits as a benefits officer, mainly dealing with housing and council tax benefits, as was. Amy has remained within the service area ever since. During her time, Amy has studied for a professional qualification, Institute of Revenues Rating and Valuation at technician level, which has stood her in good stead to further enhance her career at North Herts. After qualifying, Amy was promoted to the Senior Benefits Officer for the Benefits Customer Services team before moving to the Revenues Technical team in 2004-05. The move from front-facing to back office resulted in Amy being more involved in completing government returns on the council's key performance indicators for benefits, as well as ensuring that the software systems used were up to date and ensuring the staff using the systems were fully trained. It was during this time that Amy became much more involved with housing benefit subsidy, which she continues to do. Amy is the council's main point of contact for this area and deals with both internal and external auditors to ensure that the council maximises its subsidy in this area. During the COVID pandemic, Amy dealt with the self-isolation payments. She processed the applications that helped our residents with financial losses due to having to isolate where they had contracted COVID-19. During this time, Amy assisted with making £1.4 million worth of payments to our residents. Amy has recently started to assist with more revenues-orientated tasks, such as assisting with setting the council tax base, as well as revenues-related government returns. So Amy is a huge asset to the revenues and benefits teams. So I would again like to propose that the council place on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Amy Jarmain for her long and valuable service to local government of 30 years. May I have a seconder, please? Ian Albert, thank you.
Cheers, thank you, Chair. I'm absolutely delighted to second this recommendation, and obviously colleagues will unanimously support it. I think our revenue and benefits team have rightfully got a fantastic reputation of service, and as the executive member for it over the number of years now, I really have been proud of the work that our staff have delivered for our community. And Amy is really one of those unsung members of staff that just probably works, as you said, Chair, but behind the scenes, and not perhaps the sort of front-facing role of obviously some of our officers, but actually it's such an important cog, particularly as you said during the COVID time, of actually making sure that we delivered the services to our most hard-pressed residents, to our communities, and really I think all of us here should, I think, Amy and all of that team, but particularly today, thanking Amy very much in the spotlight for all of her years of service. And I hope that colleagues will fully and unanimously support this award.
Any other members wish to speak? If not, it's been duly proposed and seconded. I'm going to suggest you all shout aye when I say, is everyone in favour? Thank you very much. So we pass our grateful thanks on for 30 years of service to Amy. Right, now we come to the sad parts, I'm afraid. I am sad to announce that a former Chief Executive of North Herts Council, Stuart Philp, passed away on the 10th of December 2024. Stuart was first appointed in September 1984 when he moved down from Scotland. He left in 1988 and then returned in 1992 and stayed until 2003. He retired in the summer of 2003 and moved back to Scotland, then returned to Letchworth for about 7 years before moving to Surrey to be near to family. So our thoughts are with his wife Wynne and his 2 sons and 4 grandchildren. I'm sure many councillor colleagues will remember Stuart Philp from his time at North Hertfordshire. He was a very approachable and welcoming chief executive. He would regularly walk the floor and check in with individuals and took a real interest in what was taking place throughout the organisation. He was heavily involved in gaining approval for the Royston Leisure Centre, which at the time was one of the largest projects the council delivered. One council officer who worked with Stuart during his time as chief executive remarked, "I remember him being on the interview panel when I applied for the contracts and projects manager role. I was very nervous as this was a big promotion for me. He reassured me and made me relax, which I wasn't expecting from a chief executive. If it wasn't for his calm and kind approach, I don't think I would have performed as well and got offered the role." And if I could just pay my own tribute, Stuart Philp was the chief executive when I first arrived in Hitchin in 1997. And he couldn't have been more supportive of the work that we did. And he would quite often wander over to Hitchin and wander in the office and say, "How's it going?" So he was a very nice guy to work with. Are there any other members who would wish to say? Claire Strong. Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, when I first became elected, Stuart was the chief executive. I would echo those comments. He was incredibly warm, sociable chief executive. Not that our current one isn't, but he did make, with all the meetings that we had going on, he was always there. He was always engaged, and he lived in Letchworth, which was always a bonus. So I'm very sad to see that he's passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Jarvis. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. I'm one of the others who remembers Stuart Philp. It was quite a long time ago, just after I became a councillor, when I was only slightly older than Ralph Munster is now. Actually, that's not true. I was much older than Ralph Munster is now. And I remember Stuart, and that was his second time, I think, at North Herts after he'd left and decided that it was such a wonderful place to work that he should return. I don't think any other chief executive has ever done that. So he's unique in that respect, and some others. What I remember about Stuart is when I was a relatively new councillor and invited in to talk to him, I said, "How frustrating must it be to work in a place where a bunch of amateurs tell you what to do?" And he said, "I couldn't possibly comment on that," and inspected his shoes for a while, which I thought was typical of the restrained way in which he dealt with things. So I'm very sad to hear of his death.
Yes, he did have a wry sense of humour, I seem to remember. Okay, well, our second bereavement to report, I'm afraid, is of former councillor Marilyn Kirkland. She was a member of the Liberal Democrat group and a Baldock East ward councillor, and she passed away on the 13th of June this year, aged 78. Our thoughts are obviously with Marilyn's family and friends at this sad time. She served as a district councillor from November 2005 to May 2012. And then was unsuccessful at re-election. Marilyn Kirkland served on several committees during her time as councillor, such as Joint Staff Consultative Committee, Scrutiny and Standards. If anyone knew Marilyn, particularly Steve Jarvis. Steve.
Yes, I remember Marilyn. She was not a enormously noisy member of the council. Her interventions didn't usually keep us here late in the evening, but she did have a significant following in her community. She worked very, very assiduously, and in some cases fairly quietly, to get things done in the area that she represented. After she ceased to be a councillor, she was for several years the chair of the North Herts Bus Users Group, And I have happy memories of the meetings she ran while we discussed various public transport issues in North Hertfordshire. So,
Thanks, Steve. Alistair Willoughby.
Thank you, Chair. While I didn't know Marilyn well in her role as a councillor, I did have the chance to work a lot alongside her on the Baldock Festival Committee for a period. I just would like to note that she contributed to driving forward the work of the festival and other events in our community for many years, alongside other dedicated volunteers. And I would like to say her contributions have left a lasting mark on the Baldock community, and we will remember her with genuine appreciation.
Thank you, Alistair. Okay, and finally, very sad, and personally, I'm very sad to announce the former councillor Lawrence Oliver, again a member of the Liberal Democrat group and a Hitchin Highbury ward councillor, passed away very recently in Scotland. Thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. Lawrence served as a district councillor from May 2003 to May 2014. When he didn't stand for re-election in 2014. He was chair of Overview and Scrutiny, formerly known as just Scrutiny Committee, between May 2008 and May 2011. He also served on other committees, Joint Staff Consultative, Finance Audit and Risk and Standards. There will be a funeral held at Christchurch, Bedford Road in Hitchin on Thursday the 24th of July at 3 p.m. Are there any members here who would like to make a mention? Ruth Brown. Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't know Lawrence whilst he was a councillor, but I did know him as a campaigner. And I first met him during the 2018 North Herts Council elections when I first got elected. And I will forever appreciate him because he made the effort to come from Hitchin to Royston to help me get elected. And I was so surprised when he turned up, and having never met him, you've come all the way from Hitchin to help me. And he said, well, I reckon Hitchin Highbury's in the bag, so I've come to help you over the line. And I made it by 78 votes. So I shall be forever indebted to Lawrence. And I remember him with a lot of fondness as a lovely guy. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ruth. John Claydon. John.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just want to add my tribute to Lawrence. Lawrence was one of the most warm and welcoming people that I met when I first got involved in local politics. I first started taking an interest, and he, was always enthusiastic, very happy to take a neophyte under his wing. In fact, he decided to give me some homework by donating this dictionary of liberal quotations to me, and saying, "Go away and read that." So he really he really was generous and involved and interested, and I really appreciated that when I was new to how everything worked, and he really gave me the benefit of his experience. So I'm very proud to represent the ward that he formerly represented and lived in. And I hope I will do a good job in that role. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. Claire Strong.
Thank you. I remember Lawrence with great affection, actually. He was a lovely councillor, absolutely dedicated to the constituents and bringing forward a number of ideas and trying to do things right. I'll say he was never shouty. He was very calming, and he always spoke with an absolutely gorgeous Scottish lilt in the chamber. And I have to say, I got a message from his son Douglas, and I was very, very sad because even when he left the council and we were on the square doing councillor surgery, he'd always pop along and say hello to us, just check up what we were doing, if we were still carrying on some of the things that he wanted to see for the town. So I think it's great sadness and great loss for us. He was certainly did an awful lot for the town for the years that he served as a councillor.
Thank you very much, Claire. So for those three, I would like to invite members to stand if they are able and join me in a minute's silence for tribute to Stuart Marilyn Lawrence. Okay. Move on to the business. Item 5, public participation. We have no public participation at this meeting. Item 6, referred from other committees. The annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee will be considered with item 9. Annual report of Finance, Audit and Risk will be considered with item 12. Referral from Cabinet Revenue Budget Outturn will be considered with item 10. Investment Strategy Investment Strategy will be considered with item 11. And the referral from Cabinet Report on Risk Management Governance will be considered with item 13. So we go straight to item 14, which is now exclusion of the press and public. I propose that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that the following report will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the said Act as amended. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Can we vote on that, please?
Chair, that motion is carried.
Sure, we should have a little zapper that you could just do it with. Right, thanks everybody. We're now back live. So item 16, Churchgate viability and next steps, part 1. I'll go to the exec member, Tamsin again.
Chair. I want to thank Steve Crowley, Chloe Gray and the Churchgate Project Board and colleagues from Lambert Smith Hampton for their work in bringing this report to full council. I'm pleased to present this report as we look ahead to the next phase of the Churchgate regeneration project. When we purchased the shopping centre in August 2022, we secured the best opportunity to regenerate a site we now fully own. Due to the scale and complexity of the project, we brought in Lambert Smith Hampton. Working closely with our enterprise team, they've supported a commercial review, soft market testing, public consultations, multiple workshops, UK reef engagement, and most recently, the viability assessment leading to the options appraisal before us today. We previously reported to full council in January 2023 on the startup phase and again this April with updates on the public consultation and the research phase. Updates have been provided via the Member Information Service and the Churchgate Hub. All group leaders and relevant shadow executives have been briefed, and I thank all of the councillors and residents who contributed during the consultation phase. The consultation phases were amongst the largest this council has ever conducted, generating over 3,700 responses through surveys and in-person engagement. Officers took deliberate steps to capture a wide range of views, consulting with the Hitchin Market Board, local forums, existing tenants and school children. All political groups were invited to run workshops, and input was also gathered from across the district through digital outreach and a leaflet campaign that reached every household in the district. Both the public consultation and the work conducted by Lambert Smith Hampton informed the creation of 5 development principles endorsed by the project board. These were 1, heritage-led regeneration, enhancing the historic character with complementary development. 2, multiple use development, blending residential, retail and leisure for a resilient local economy. 3, market and riverfront revitalisation, reimagining Hitchin Market and the River His corridor as vibrant community assets. 4, sustainable development, incorporating green infrastructure and low carbon technologies. And 5, unlocking underused sites without overdeveloping heritage areas. These principles set the baseline vision for the next stage, which takes us to procurement, at which point the selected development partner will help shape the final vision. The project board held 3 workshops led by Lambert Smith Hampton to evaluate a range of development options. These have now been developed to 4, which Lambert Smith Hampton will brief on. Option 1, mixed-use development of the Churchgate Centre, Market and Biggin Lane car park. Option 2, which builds on 1 by adding in Portmill Lane West. Option 3, which adds Portmill Lane East. And Option 4, which is a full development across all 5 sites. Each includes a mix of residential, including affordable, retail with independent traders, market space, leisure facilities, parking, and possibly a food store. The details were covered in the Part 2 report. The viability assessment has revealed some key trade-offs. These include whether to include a food store and the impact on parking, the level of affordable housing we can deliver, while also supporting the quality of public realm and community benefits we want to achieve through the site. Our target remains 40% housing, but we have asked Lambert Smith Hampton to model onto alternatives to ensure that we are able to balance viability with ambition. These choices will be considered during the master planning phase. Regardless of the final shape, the council remains committed to delivering high quality public space, meaningful community facilities and a revitalised Churchgate area. The report outlines the path ahead, and in October we will return to full council with the proposed procurement route and partner model, followed by a formal procurement process. As this is likely the largest development the council has undertaken, and given our limited experience with schemes of this scale, we are recommending that we procure the services of a highly skilled project manager. The right leadership will ensure control over time, cost and quality, and help avoid significant risks and overspend. Approval of this report allows us to move forward with developing option 3 as the preferred route and secures essential project management resources. To be clear, this is not a decision to submit to planning. It is not appointment of a developer, nor does it determine the ownership outcomes via the scheme. So my recommendation is that I fully endorse this report and recommend it to council. And the recommendations 2.1 supports the project board's recommendation to discount option 4 and further develop a proposal based on option 3, which includes the plots for options 1 and 2. And 2.2 endorses the 5 development principles set out in paragraph 8.5. And 2.3 approves £120,000 for appointment of the project manager as outlined in paragraph 8.13. Thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Is there a presentation to come on this or not? Yeah, right. Thank you. So, Steve.
Thank you. Hello, good evening, everybody. My name's Steve Norris. I'm an Executive Director at Lambert Smith Hampton. I'm National Head of the Planning, Regeneration plus Infrastructure business. I also head up our Specialist Town Centre and Economic Regeneration team. And I was also previously an expert advisor to the government's High Street Task Force until its dissolution last year. I'm joined by colleagues, Ben Evans in the room, a surveyor in the Development Consultancy team, and online by Neil Parlett, who's a Senior Director in our Development Consultancy teams that forms part of the Planning, Regeneration plus Infrastructure business. Just moving on to the next slide. I'm very briefly just going to cover a little bit about Lambert Smith Hampton, but also some of the projects that we're involved in that will resonate with the work that we've been advising yourselves on for about 18 months now. Comprehensive baseline assessment that we've carried out, market testing throughout the process as well, including two parts of that at UK Reef, and also more recently the viability assessment, which we'll talk through. Just moving to the next slide. Again, we act at all stages of the property and regeneration life cycle, and again for this project we've been involved very much in those early stages about understanding the Churchgate regeneration zone and its potential for redevelopment. Next slide, please. Just very briefly, we're carrying out and advising similar local authorities across the country. In Stafford, for example, we advise the council there on the acquisition of the Guildhall Shopping Centre, the demolition of empty and poor quality retail car parking, and most recently we advised on the option to secure redevelopment. And in Sevenoaks, we're also currently advising on the procurement to secure a development partner under a Procurement Act process and a developer to be selected by this Christmas. Next slide, please. Elsewhere, we've advised Great Yarmouth over a number of years now, but more recently on the North Quay site, which sits between the station and the town centre for redevelopment, including comprehensive land assembly, and has recently secured a development partner for the council there to take that forward as a kind of mixed-use residential scheme. And we're also advising Homes England on Northstowe in Cambridgeshire, which some of you will know about, which is the biggest new housing development, new town since Milton Keynes. So moving on. Next page. The site that we are considering is edged in red there, the Churchgate Regeneration Zone as it's named. It includes the shopping centre and the market, Biggin Lane car park, St Mary's car park, and Port Mill East car park and Port Mill West car park. Next slide, please. And as part of this stage of work that we've recently carried out, that the Development Consultancy team have carried out, we've undertaken a detailed viability assessment to understand the different options for development of the site. And I've just asked Ben to come in just to explain this diagram, please.
Yeah, so with the council, we undertook a number of workshops. The first workshop was on viability and the process of how we undertake a viability assessment. So if you look at the diagrams, the first diagram at the top, it's the basics of how a viability assessment is undertaken. So we've got total revenue, then we minus the cost, then we minus the profit, and that gives us the land value. The diagram underneath that, we've got columns. The furthest on the left is a viable scheme. So the value of the development equals or extends to further than the costs, making it viable. The second development, middle column, is an unviable scheme where our costs are outweighing our value, resulting in an unviable scheme. And then the third option to the right is a unviable scheme as a result of values being lower than costs. Now, once a development is built and the values that we assume pre-development and then post-development are less, it results in an unviable scheme.
Thank you, Ben. Next slide, please. Taking on board the feedback from the comprehensive public consultation at the end of last year, we carried out a second workshop to look at the different uses for the site and what the site could accommodate. And we initially used flashcards with different uses on them to understand which uses the project board and the wider feedback from the consultation could include on the site. We then looked at a different set of flashcards, which included values on these uses chosen to show the costs and the viability around that. And this will then allow the project board, with the assistance of Lambeth Smith Hampton, decide on a final 4 options to appraise. Next one, slide, please. And these are the 4 options. Option 1 looked at a mixed use option, plots 1 and 2, with and without a food store. Option 2 was a mixed use option again, with plots 1 and 2, with and without a food store, but also including plot 5. A mixed use option was plot 3, 1 and 2 again, with and without a food store, including plots 3 and 5. And then finally, option 4, the more comprehensive development of the complete site, was plots 1 to 5, again, with and without a food store. And this option assumes the need for a multi-storey car park to replace car parking on the existing surface car parks. I think that's it. So open to questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on that presentation for either Thames Inn or Lambeth Smith Hampton? If not, the recommendations as were outlined on 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3, which you are proposing. Okay. So that council supports and endorses the Churchgate Project Board recommendation to discount option 4 due to it not being financially viable and undertake further work to develop a proposal based upon option 3, which includes by default options 1 and 2. That council supports and endorses the 5 development principles that were set out in paragraph 8.5, and members approve additional funding for a specialist project manager of 120,000 as set out in 8.13, as this was not identified as part of the 25-26 budget setting process. Exec member has proposed. Can we have a seconder, please? Daniel Allen.
Happy to second, Chair. Reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we go to debate on this at all. No, seeing a couple of lights. Right, Steve Jarvis.
Just one question. In 8.12, we have some project milestones, but there are a variety of delivery routes being considered. Are these delivery milestones the expected ones regardless of the delivery route, or do they assume a particular delivery route?
So the next stage of work is advising on the preferred route to delivery, the roadmap to delivery. And within that, there will be the different options available to the council. And those different options will then be for consideration at full council again in October.
Is that these milestones are only really milestones up to October, and after that they could change depending on the decisions that are made then?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, depending on the route taken. Yes, the different options. The council will then decide which route to take, and that will then start to fix the milestones going forward.
Ralph.
Oh, are we in debate, Chair? Oh, marvellous. Well, in that case. So could I just first of all take the opportunity to thank our consultants for the work of which they've undertaken on this. It's obviously a very substantial piece of work, and it's a very comprehensive report, which is very much appreciated to enable councillors across the divide to make the best possible decision in the interests of Hitchin. But I just want to make a few observations on this because obviously this is a project of which the administration has inherited from the previous joint administration, and unfortunately, from day one, this project always had its flaws. You know, we purchased the Churchgate Centre for above market value, which was the first error. But unfortunately, we can't turn the clock back. We need to move forward. Now, this, of course, is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to redevelop Hitchin Town Centre. And I must say, you know, whoever designed and built this structure in the 1960s, 1970s, I mean, you could not have put up a worse structure in Hitchin Town Centre if you tried, because it really is an eyesore. So hopefully whatever redevelopment takes place, whoever redevelops the Churchgate Centre will put a structure there which is going to actually support the ideals that we have in Hitchin of a market town, a thriving market town. But of course, as we've already said, there are significant risks involved financially, and I would like to touch on this because we can have all of the proposals in the world, but ultimately we need to know how we're going to pay for them. And this is going to be for the vast majority of taxpayers' money the taxpayer is going to be picking up the tab on this. So we need to have a clear strategy as to how we're going to pay for any costs of which are incurred through development. That is not to be seen as of this moment, and hopefully come October, that is something which we'll be able to have more information on. Then the second point is all of the options of which are proposed result in a significant reduction in the number of parking spaces. Now, representing a rural community, as many of my colleagues do, there are a number of individuals who can't rely on public transport because it is so infrequent and so unreliable, and people therefore rely on getting into their cars and driving into Hitchin Town Centre to go and do the essentials, whether that be picking up prescriptions, going and seeing the doctor, going and buying a pint of milk from Marks and Spencer's or whichever other retailer you do so choose. And it's really quite important that actually we consider that. There is, of course, within this a shift towards active travel, but we need to make sure that in any proposals, and I'm aware I've got 30 seconds left, in any proposals we are actually focused on delivering for our rural communities, making sure they're not disadvantaged in this, as well as potentially looking at improving public transport connectivity.
Ralph, we're down to 20 seconds. Mate.
Thank you very much, Chair. I shall round off my comments with this. What we need to be doing is we need to be making sure that if council is going to take forward this project, that we maximise the profitability, because ultimately it is the taxpayer who is going to be picking up the tab, and we cannot allow it to spiral out of control, and for this project to have a blank cheque.
Thank you very much. Churchgate, very much a product of its time. It was. I'm just going to bring in Anthony on a point of.
Thank you, Chair. A very quick factual point. We did not pay above market value for the Churchgate Centre. What we paid was what a private sector developer was prepared to pay for it, and the price was backed up by external surveyors' valuations at the time. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Anthony. Right, we've got a few wanting to speak now. Joe Graziano. Joe.
Thank you, Chair. Just an observation, within the development options 1, 2, 3 and 4, have the developers or the council factored in existing sites on the brownfield area, such as the old Wilco's, site for retail space and the old Woolworths site? It's just a question that I'm raising. Have we considered, because I do agree we need more housing, and that's the best fit for that place. But I agree with Ralph. The place is run down, and housing would be the solution. But I don't agree with a retail mix when we've got plots already there that should be utilised, like the old Woolworths site. Have the developers or the council factored that in?
I wouldn't want to preempt anything, Joe, but I think you'll find that there are applications in on both those sites. Okay. Ian Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair. And to briefly say, I support the recommendations. And really to follow on from what Anthony said. I mean, Ralph, you've obviously been listening to Donald Trump just too often. Just because you keep on saying that the value we've overpaid for a thing, or indeed your predecessors did, that doesn't make it so. And as Anthony has set out, that just isn't true. And I'm sorry you keep saying it, but I really hope you will decease from doing that in the future. But look, the next, probably decease. I mean, I'm looking, but I'm not sure we necessarily want another vacancy at the county council. But look, let's be clear. You've answered your own question. Many of the next steps will come through from the next report to council in October. I share those concerns around car parking. That's absolutely right to look at this. But clearly, that's why we're going to look at doing that car parking strategy, and that will be a really important tool in actually making an assessment that this council can then take decisions on. I agree with you about blank checks, and clearly you're, I'm sure, are probably just about old enough to remember the previous administration and its blank check on Hitchin Town Hall and Museum, which the joint administration bailed out and sorted out the mess left by the Tories for many years of messing about. This administration will not be writing blank checks. That is why we look to balance our budgets. We've got healthy resources in this council. Now, I think, so to conclude, Chair, I think we've got the recommendations here. I think what's set out in those 5 development principles in 8.5 are actually ones that I'm really proud of. Yes, they're a little bit wordy, but actually it sets the real core, I think, of what the public have said to us that they want to see as part of this development. And we now need to see whether we can make the challenges. We didn't buy this site to actually to just to give it away. We bought this site in order to actually make sure we can do this development that has been long overdue, and probably, as Keith and our chair knows, that I think he arrived when this was being discussed. I think Anthony Roach had black hair probably at the point where he or dark brown hair at the point where this started. I really hope we can now move forward. This is the right way, and I really thank sort of Tamsin, our officers, and all the team for the work they've done on this, and I hope we'll unanimously support these recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. The first reference I've ever found to a councillor saying we need to do something about Churchgate was former councillor Bernard Lovewell in 1987. So that was earlier than that. Does it really? Right. Right, Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. So I broadly support the recommendations, and I just want to thank the consultants, the staff, and the project board, and all the residents, businesses, all our stakeholders who engaged in this process, and a vast number of consultation responses. And I think this obviously goes back a long time. The previous Conservative administration had an ambition to develop this. They looked for someone to do it. For about 20 years, I think, no private developer could make it work. And therefore, this council chose to take control by buying Churchgate at a market value cost, not above market value, as has been said. And that was so that we had control of the site, and we wanted to do something good for the community. We are a public sector body, and I think we need to deliver the best for the community. So I have a number of concerns. One is the parking, which I think has already been mentioned. We need enough parking, and I'll leave the experts to model what we need. I absolutely support the administration's ambition to deliver 40% affordable housing. How can we ask developers to deliver 40% affordable housing on our local plan if we as a developer don't do it ourselves? That is hypocritical. So we need to make sure that, for me, is a red line. And then finally, I think it should be something that's community focused, what the community want, and sustainable. Obviously, there are some trade-offs. We have to have some residential to make it work. But I would also like to see the council consider investing some of our reserves to make this work financially, and not purely as a commercial venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Nigel Mason.
Yeah. 2 things I think we can all agree on. One is that Churchgate Centre is never going to win any awards for aesthetics. And second is the Churchgate saga has gone on a very long time, far too long. That we can agree. I'd like to add my thanks to the consultants, to the officers and the councillors who've got us here. The consultation has been genuinely impressive, and going into the hub on many days as I did was a really, really enjoyable experience. A huge number of residents have spoken, and we've listened. And the mixed use we're talking about here is what people have asked for. And I know that from my time talking to people in the hub. And in doing that, I hope we've broken through the understandable sense of here we go again that one hears in Hitchin around Churchgate. This is not the final stage or anywhere near it, but it is a huge step in the right direction. And I hope we can all unite around that. If North Herts Council is to end in a few years, let's leave the rebuilding of Churchgate as our legacy in Hitchin. And at the risk of causing trauma to some of my colleagues, let's get Churchgate done support.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Right, I've just got a couple. Alistair Willoughby.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a very brief point because I think I'm a little tired of the narrative that Councillor Munster is bringing up, but I'm certainly not going to wish him dead, as my esteemed colleague. But I do find it interesting that you have such angst about wasting money on local authority building assets, because you've just signed onto a call-in at county for that called in the decision that we should move away from County Hall. So if you want to talk about wasting money on old buildings, I think perhaps you should. Yes. Sorry, I just want to make that point.
Okay, thank you. I've got Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Chair. Our officers and consultants have undertaken a financial viability assessment on all options, which has led to the decisions that we must make. The possible inclusion of a food store or not and its impact on parking, the level of affordable housing that can be provided, and to achieve the other community benefits within the scheme, the public realm, the community space and market. These are the things that people want. The aim is to provide 40% affordable housing with the scheme, but we've got to model levels on a lower level as well. The intention of this authority is to deliver the highest quality public realm, much needed community spaces, and the highest levels of affordable housing that are viable. I'd also like to thank everyone at Lambert Smith Hampton and our officers, particularly Steve and Chloe. I know how much work you've put into this. I also want to thank Tamsin, because I know that you've put a huge amount of work into this as well. I'd like to remind Councillor Brown that our reserves are revenue, not capital. What we need to remember is we need a viable site, and Hitchin finally deserves this redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll finish with going back to Tamsin, I think.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillors Albert and Brown for squashing the line that we overpaid for the site. I just wanted to pick up on a few things as well, just for clarity for residents from the debate. The ownership model and who bears the risk, whether it is taxpayers or the private sector, has not yet been determined. We have not determined the level of investment that we will allow the private sector to make in our scheme, or whether we wish to retain the full ownership of the asset. These are decisions that will be made later. So it is incorrect to frame this as there's a huge risk on the public, because the level of risk is to be determined through a controlled process that we have oversight of, and we are not yet at that stage. And just to reassure colleagues, as they've mentioned, that the parking strategy work that is in the next step, the piece of work exploring the public realm and the level of quality that we want from that site, the nature of the community space that we want from that site, and the shape and form of the market. These are not bullet point items to be forgot in the proposal. These are key to the success, and in the next stages we'll be mapping those out fully. This is a risky project, but it's important to remember that development happens all the time, and the way that you manage risk is by bringing in the right people with the right skills, the right knowledge and the right expertise, and that's exactly what we're setting out here in this report.
Go on then.
Thank you. Well, it seems as colleagues have accused me of misleading council, as has our chief executive during the debate stage of proceedings. What I might just add is that...
I'm not sure it was misleading. I don't know the word misleading.
Well, that's certainly the way I took it, Chair. But I might just add and qualify my comments, because in 2021, a marketing brochure for the Churchgate Centre from Lunson Mitchell put the sale price is £2.5 million. Now, council paid £3.75 million. Just to qualify my comments.
Okay, I'm not going to chew over this, but I know somebody else was in the frame for that sort of money, so whatever. I think Anthony made the point that we just matched an offer that was made. We've had the proposals. We've had a proposer on 2.1. I won't read them all again. Recommendations 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. We have a proposer and a seconder. Can we please go to the vote?
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. My personal thanks as well to the officers, the exec member, and the consultants for all the work they've done, which I know has been enormous. We're going to take a break. Okay. So we will see you back here at 10 past 9. Okay, folks, can you retake your seats and we'll get going? Call to order. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. And we will move to the next item. Right. We're on to item 7, the Community Governance Review Final Recommendations. And Mel is going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Before Richard presents the final recommendations regarding the Community Governance Review, there are a few matters that I'd like to highlight to members. So in regards to Ashwell and Codicott, you'll see that there are 2 amendments that have been published, one regarding Ashwell and the other for Codicott, that relate to the number of parish councillors. And just as a background to this, the 2 parishes did respond to the consultation, but it was not to the second consultation. And comments were received after the second consultation had closed. And therefore they weren't included within the final recommendations and will instead be considered as amendments at the relevant part of this evening's meeting. Just to avoid any confusion as well, the recommendations for Codicott, which are listed as R9 and R10 on page 50 in the published report, are listed in the opposite within the summary detailed on page 84 of the report. And the amendment being proposed, which I've just touched on, reflects the order detailed on page 50. There's also a further amendment required, as the final recommendation printed in the report say it's regarding when Codicott elects. It's currently incorrect in the published report. The recommendation should actually read that change the electoral cycle for Codicott such that the elections in 2026 result in a 2-year term of office ending in 2028, and thereafter revert to a 4-yearly terms in line with North Herts District Council elections. Moving on to St Hippolyt's, the Parish Council submitted a petition in opposition of the draft proposals, which are not being presented to full council as final recommendations. The petition opposed a change to the boundary of moving St Hippolyt's North Parish Ward from St Hippolyt's to Hitchin Priory Parish. After the petition had been validated, it contains 123 signatures in opposition. And having consulted the Parish Council, they confirmed that they would not address full council to present the petition tonight, and instead were satisfied that I inform you that a petition had been received on the draft proposals. As I said, these are not being presented to full council as final recommendations, given the level of responses that were generated via the public consultation. In addition, St Hippolyt's Parish Council would also like it noted that page 78 of the report details that no Parish Council response has been received to the consultation. However, as detailed in Appendix A on page 331, this is ID reference 2003, it does detail that the Parish Council responded, objected to both draft proposals, again, which are not being presented as final recommendations tonight. And finally, in relation to Offaly, it's been noted that there is a comment listed under Purton on page 314, that's ID number 83, which relates to Offaly. It is already listed in both Offaly and also incorrectly listed in Purton in the redacted comments, but the total number of responses and the outcome remain unchanged. So, Chair, I think that's it. So, with your permission, I'd like to hand over to Richard to present the final recommendations, please.
Please do.
Good evening. Thank you. Today, we are presenting the final recommendations from the Community Governance Review, or CGR. As members will recall, full council agreed to undertake the CGR in July 2024 to review parish electoral arrangements across the district. The paper before you today is the culmination of a year of work during which 2 public consultations have been held, and the final recommendations take into account the responses from hundreds of local people, parish and town councils, and community groups who expressed their views on local government arrangements and helped to shape these recommendations. Following the first public consultation, which concluded in November last year, officers and members jointly developed a series of draft proposals which were brought before Council in February ahead of a second public consultation that ran through to May. Through that consultation, we received a total of 2,253 responses. Having supported a large number of local authorities through their CGR processes, I can advise that that is a very substantial response and indicates the strength of feeling from local people to the draft proposals. The final recommendations take into account both the statutory criteria and the responses to the consultation. They've been developed, discussed, debated, and refined by the cross-party member working group, and some substantial changes have been made in response to the feedback received during the consultation. I should highlight it was necessary to propose changes in the draft proposals to allow people to make an informed response, either in support of or against the proposals, and we are grateful to everyone who took the time to respond to allow us to shape these final recommendations. The report before you provides details for every affected parish, town and community. I won't intend to go through them all individually now, but in summary, we are proposing no new parish or town councils following the consultation. Now, whilst there may remain some individuals and groups who would like to see local councils in some of the currently unparished communities, respondents and local residents were not persuaded by the relative merits and strongly opposed the introduction of new councils at this time. Some parishes would see changes in the number of parish councillors. The boundaries between Baldock, Clothall and Bygrave are proposed to be adjusted. A new parish council ward is proposed for Ickleford Lavender Grange. The town council wards for Royston are proposed to be aligned to the district wards. The terms of office for parish and town councils are proposed to be amended to align them all to the district council dates. And other previous proposals are dropped, reflecting the views of local people and ensuring that the final recommendations before you represent the interests and identities of local communities. As you've heard, there are redacted anonymised copies of the submissions included at the end of the report. I'd like to thank all those who contributed to the development of the final recommendations by responding to the consultation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm very envious of your location. Are there any questions or comments on that presentation? Claire Strong.
Thank you, Keith Hoskins. Just for clarity on the comments that Mel made about Offaly, it was the fact that the report said Offaly Parish Council had not responded, and they did respond. And I think that's just the point I would like to make clear, because I know they'll be very upset if they thought that we hadn't received their official response. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ian Albert, Ian.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair. I mean, maybe a question for Anthony here. 8.9 clearly touches on this community governance review in the light of local government reorganisation. Is there clearly it's the local government reorganisation? It's a bit of a moving target at the moment. Is there any sort of further thoughts or any updated information there in relation to what either government or elsewhere or indeed thinking around the county about what to do with areas that are unparished, with both within our district, but clearly obviously there are major towns elsewhere across the county, Stevenage, Watford, Hemel Hempstead, and so on, that clearly won't have their own borough council in the future, and no subsidiary kind of organisation that sits underneath a new unitary authority. So I'd be interested just to hear if there any further thinking or any work strands that's going on this.
Thank you, Councillor Albert, for the question. At Hearts Leaders Group, at lunchtime, we were literally discussing, sorry, I had to pause to think when it was. It was lunchtime today. We were literally discussing this issue. Short version is a whole range of options are being looked at, which do include the potential for parish and town councils, new parish and town councils. That is a more popular approach in some parts of Hertfordshire than others. Some are actively exploring it. As you'll see within the report, the timing of our community governance review and what we looked at would mean that for the next 2 years, if someone sought to petition on the for the same things we've already looked at, we would have the right to refuse that. Worth also noting that the English devolution bill that was laid in Parliament today talks about empowering communities through a new requirement for all councils to have effective neighbourhood governance. I have no idea what that means yet. What I've picked up through the very brief opportunity I've had to look at emails during the course of today is that essentially that would give the Secretary of State power to create regulations to say what they felt that meant. So that is a potential alternative, I guess, to parish and town councils and indeed also area committees. But we're looking at parish and town councils, area committees, area forums, what this new neighbourhood governance is, all options on the table, with the thought that probably it would be for the new unitary authorities to decide what from that pick and mix type approach they think would work for their area, because what's recognised is that Hertfordshire is a very different place across its length and breadth, and so what might work in one area might not work somewhere else.
Thanks, Anthony. Steve Jarvis.
Just in the case of responses from the parish councils, I mean, I understand that Western Parish Council submitted a response saying that they thought there should be an amendment to the parish boundaries, and that doesn't seem to be recorded. I mean, it's clearly too late in the process to do it now, but we have adopted an inconsistent approach where parishes are likely to be, parts of parishes are likely to become parts of adjacent urban areas. In the case of Baldock, parish boundaries are proposed to have been adjusted, and elsewhere they haven't. But I wonder why the response from Western suggesting that that should be done is not recorded.
I don't know if Richard can comment on that.
Thank you. Yes. So Western Parish Council did make a response to the first round of consultation, and that's been shared. We've looked at that and discussed at the member working group, and we didn't receive a response specifically about their final recommendations. However, the approach in other areas is slightly different. So the Baldock area, for example, the proposal is to align the parish boundary, or in Baldock's case, the unparished boundary, with the district wards, whereas in Western it would be turning the other way and changing the parish boundary to cut across district wards. At the current time, as I understand it, those developments haven't commenced. And so once those developments around the Western area have taken shape and the extent of them is known, if they are going ahead, then that'll be an opportunity for a CGR to see where those boundaries lie with regards to the local communities. And as Anthony's mentioned, with whatever future local governance takes shape, we'll be able to take those into account using the views of the local communities at that time.
Thank you. Joe Graziano. Joe.
Thanks, Chair. So just two questions. I'm still a bit unclear on page 63, Kingswalden Parish Council, current 8, proposal 7. What is the proposal? Does it go down to 7, Richard? Because it is unclear, because 3 supported and 3 opposed, but you said that the cycle going to four-year term in line with North Herts. And the second point, which is disturbing me, 152 electors in Langley, which is a yearly meeting, of which I cannot get hold of the lady who runs this because she ignores me or she's non-existent anymore. I don't think we've consulted with these people effectively. So how can we justify that Langley have been listened to? Because one of the residents came to see me about this and they felt that no one's listening to them and they should be incorporated into a parish. So I've got real concerns that 152 people have been ignored at Langley. So where do we stand with that, please?
Thank you. On your first point about Kings Walden, the proposal is to not change the number of parish councillors. So in each table, the draft proposals at the top there is what went out for consultation, and the final recommendations at the bottom of the table is what's being presented to you today. So it's to highlight what we went out to consult on. So the draft proposal was to change the number of councillors. The final recommendation is to make no change for Kings Walden. In terms of your second point, regarding Langley and the 152 or so electors, we had one response, which was suggesting that Langley should be merged with neighbouring parishes. However, there were no other responses from anyone else from that community. Now, I take your point that not everyone will have chosen to engage in the process. However, it was widely publicised through social media, through the leaflet drops where appropriate, and through community newsletters, and through ward and district councillors to share news of this consultation. So we've done, I believe the council's done everything it can to get word out there, short of knocking on doors in every single household within the district.
Thank you. Sadly, there is a place in democracy for apathy. Right, who else we got? Matt Barnes. Matt?
I was just going to ask about the proposals to move the election cycle to align with the North Herts elections in 2028. If there aren't any, what happens to those elections? With these parish elections, would they carry on as in 2028 as proposed?
So Councillor Barnes, are you asking if the recommendations weren't approved, that the election cycle would carry on as, because obviously not all parishes at the moment are aligned with the districts at the moment. So if that wasn't approved, then they would carry on in the cycle that they are currently on.
Yeah, that's not quite what I was asking. I was asking if we're
abolished.
The rationale for amending the election cycle in some areas is that they're aligned with the 2028 North Herts elections. There is a good chance that those elections do not go ahead. So would the parish elections in that scenario still go ahead?
Yeah. Just to point out, the community governance review started before the devolution white paper landed, and we've obviously carried on the process. So in the scenario you just described, based on the government's timeline, we would have shadow elections to the new unitary authorities in 2027 with a go live of 1st of April 2028. That would mean you wouldn't have a unitary election in 2028 because that would have happened the previous year, but the parish elections would happen on the 28 cycle if that's adopted by full council tonight. And then clearly it would be a matter for the future unitary if they ever wanted to change those onto the same electoral cycle. But I think for the new unitary, having all the North Herts parishes electing in 28 would be a helpful thing anyway, because it would sort of help manage the workload of the elections team.
If I may, Chair, I know there is, from previous local government reorganisation, the Local Government Boundary Commission for England, who were in charge of that process, in some areas did move parish election dates regardless of what the CGRs had happened before. So they aligned with the new unitary authority dates. So it would be a discussion to have between the new forming unitary authority and the government regulatory bodies at the time to make sure that everything aligns appropriately.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Daniel Allen.
I just want to come back on that with also the point that we may not have the parishes in the same way that they are at the moment because of the way that it's being suggested. There will be other forms of neighbourhood representations. So the simple answer is we don't know. It's not something we can do. We were just working on the information we had prior to the white paper, which, let's be honest, has made everything that little bit more difficult.
Well, we are just dealing with what is rather than what may be at the moment. So let's do with that. We have Recommendations 2.1, the outcome of the consultation be noted. 2.2, that council agree the final recommendations for the community governance review as detailed, subject to an amendment to Codicut, which we'll come to, and to change the electoral cycle for Codicut. And that counts 2.3, that council note that following decision 2.2, a community governance order will be prepared to implement the agreed recommendations subject to consent by the Local Government Boundary Commission for England where required. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Allen.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thanks, Dan. And a seconder, Ruth Brown.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. We've found a second. Right, so we have a proposer and a seconder. Do we now have to get the amendments in?
Yeah, would you like to invite councillors?
I will. Ralph, would you like to propose your amendment on Codicut?
I'll just say a few words on this, if that's all right, Chair. So first of all, can I just take the opportunity to thank Richard and the Democratic Services team for all the work that they've undertaken with this. It's really important that our parish and town council governance arrangements are fit for the future. So thank you very much for that. I'm very pleased to see that bar Codicut, and I'll come on to that in a second, with my county division, we don't have any change to the number of parish councillors or the circumstances. And I know that there is a great deal of feeling in St Hippolyts regarding the proposals. So I'm very pleased to see that actually people in St Hippolyts have made their voices heard on this, and that obviously council has listened. But with respect to Codicut, obviously the situation that we find ourselves in is not ideal. However, having spoken to the members of the parish council, this is very much a strong position that they want to be represented, and I completely agree with them. The proposal to reduce the number of parish councillors down from 9 to 10 is inappropriate given the circumstances. Of course, as part of the North Herts local plan, we are going to be seeing over 400 new homes built in Codicut. That's obviously going to result in an increase in the population. It doesn't make logical sense to reduce the number of parish councillors when actually we're seeing an increase in the population locally. Ensuring that actually we retain 10 parish councillors means that we have broader representation within the community, as well as including those new individuals of whom are moving into our community, ensuring that they're able to have a say as to how they want their community to look and how it's run. But also the local government reorganisation, as we've all touched upon, we know it's going to have a significant impact on this, and it's really important that actually parishes are represented and have a mechanism other than through district and county councillors to make sure that their voice is heard. We're very fortunate in Codicut to have a very dedicated and proactive parish council, and I'm very pleased to propose this amendment.
Please. Stephen Patmore. Stephen, thank you. Second. Any debate? I'm seeing no requests for that, so shall we move to the vote, please? On the amendment, yeah.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, we now have a second amendment, which is Tom Tyson's one on Ashwell. Tom?
Thank you, Keith. Yes, as was explained, the Ashwell submission came in a little late, and so therefore, on their behalf, I would like to propose amending recommendation R1 to read a reduction from 12 to 9 parish councillors instead of 7.
Thanks very much. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't ask you to accept the last one, did I? Black mark against me. Right, so we have Tommy's proposed that. Do I have a seconder? I think Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ruth.
Happy to second that.
And there's no debate that I can see, and the original proposer has kindly accepted that amendment. I thank him for that. So can we vote on that, please? Yeah.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much. So we go to the substantive motion as amended now. Any further debate on that? Paul Ward.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to reflect on the changes from the draft to the final version for Nebworth, and thank you to Richard and all the team for making the changes as reflecting the comments of the parish council and myself, and I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Very much. Ian Albert. Ian.
Thanks, Chair. And I think obviously again, thanks to Chair Paul's, thanks to all the officers for all the work. This is a substantial piece of work that's been done here with a very significant number of responses, and I support the recommendations in there. For me personally, it was disappointing, the result around Hitchin Town Council. But I think what we've can absolutely see by the responses, and a significant number of responses, that it isn't, for varying reasons, what people want at the moment. And I think that, you know, that's certainly something that we accept. This is more than apathy, I think, on this occasion, the Chair. I think obviously a good number of people have spoken, and there was quite a debate around the town with stalls from some people who were in favour of having the town council. A lot of leaflets around. So I think, you know, we can see there's been a good response and a clear view. I mean, one of the things that I want to reflect upon, Chair, after hopefully this paper is agreed, is what we might think and what we consider around our existing community forums, and where we used to have area committees. And that's certainly something I'd like, you know, I certainly could sort of reflect upon, and may indeed want to come back with proposals around those forum and area committees and those sorts of structures that we have to indeed meet the government's test of improving our neighbourhood governance. And so I think that is something for another day. But I think for this day, I think this is a report that's been well produced. Thanks to everyone concerned. I think there's been some very clear recommendations in it, and I'm happy to support this review as I'm now amended, and I hope obviously colleagues will as well.
Thank you very much. Daniel Allen. Daniel.
Again, just to echo, thanks to all of the officers for the incredible amount of work put into this. We've had cross-party working on this as well, with multiple services, as well as multiple political parties cross-party working. We also made a point of making sure the public consultation was extended to take into account summer holiday periods. So we really did make sure this was as democratic as possible. And looking at the numbers, particularly around the Hitchin, Letchworth, Baldock town councils, there's no question in those numbers. It is quite firm. So we're definitely making the right decisions. It shows democracy in action. I'm so pleased that so many people did respond. Thank you ever so much to the officers.
Thanks very much. So we have the substantive motion as amended, proposed by Daniel Allen. I think, did somebody second it? Ruth seconded it. Thank you. So we go to the vote, please, on that.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Right, let's rattle on. Questions from members. First one is impact of Luton Airport expansion. I invite Chris Lucas to put the question to Daniel Allen, Leader of the Council.
Thank you. The question to Daniel Allen, Leader of the North Hertfordshire District Council, is as follows. In light of the Labour Secretary of State for Transport announcement on the 3rd of April, giving the go-ahead to expand Luton Airport from 16.7 million passengers to 32 million passengers, and Alistair Stratham, the Labour MP for Hitchin's endorsement of the expansion plan, could the Labour leader of North Hertfordshire District Council explain the impact this will have on the residents of North Hertfordshire, specifically those who live under the current flight path or adjacent to the airport?
Daniel Allen to respond, please. Dan.
Thank you, Chair. Luton plan to increase the passenger numbers to 32 million a year. They've clarified they want to achieve this by 2040s. So this change will happen gradually and slowly. But I know for many, the scale of the change will cause considerable concern. Seeing as you mentioned Alistair Stratham, I'll share his work. He's been engaging with the Department for Transport, ministers and their teams to share the concerns on the impact Luton Airport is already having on nearby communities and to push for considerations on the further impact that expansion would bring. I will continue to push for all relevant stakeholders to improve traffic flow around the site and through our constituency towns and villages. I want to make sure that there are more robust monitoring and enforcement on the noise impacts of flight paths and flight times. It's a shame that you've never written or emailed to him about it, Councillor Lucas, because he would have been very happy to discuss it with you. But in a direct answer to your question, we don't know yet. We're working with our MPs, with Luton Borough Council and with the Liberal Democrat-led County Council to make sure that our residents are supported in the best way possible. I also am looking to the positives of this. We need to capture every opportunity that this brings for our residents in infrastructure improvements and the potential 28,000 new jobs and new housing that will come along with this.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your response there, Councillor Allen. The short answer is no, I haven't written to Alistair Stratham on this matter, but I have actually spoken to him at length on this matter. And the answers that I got from him were wholly unsatisfactory, as was the response and answer that you've just provided. In light of this, I wonder if you could give us some assurances that and reassurances to the people who are directly affected by this terrible decision to expand Luton Airport that is going to have on the local community. And can you give us assurances that you will be campaigning and fighting tooth and nail against this expansion?
Dan.
I can't. The decision has been made. I will make sure that we capture every opportunity this brings for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question is from John Claydon.
Thank you, Chair. Given ongoing public concern about industrial fires caused by lithium-ion batteries, could the executive member please update us on what the council has done to understand and mitigate their impact on our residents?
And I'll invite Mick Debenham to respond. Mick.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Councillor Claydon for his question. I'm sure that everybody in this room and the general public all share his concerns around this very important issue. And of course, I'm happy to answer his question, but I would just like to gently nudge people towards the NHDC website, which has had a dedicated page to the fires since April. It was last updated in June, and it currently has answers to 12 FAQs about this. The response to the fires has been a multi-agency effort involving North Herts Council, Herts County Council, Fire and Rescue, Public Health and the Environment Agency. All the parties have been working with the business owners to reduce the risk of future fires and to ensure that businesses are operating within the conditions of their licence. The Environment Agency and Herts County Council are the licensing authorities, and they have assured partner agencies that both of the scrap metal businesses involved are indeed operating within the conditions of these licences. Herts County Council and North Herts Council have jointly commissioned a health impact survey to be carried out by independent experts to fully assess any risks to local residents and the nearby school. Work has already begun, and an in-depth survey will be conducted over several months to gather sufficient data to be able to bring comprehensive conclusions. Once we have this information, we'll be able to see if and what further action needs to be taken.
Thank you. Supplementary, John.
Thank you, Councillor Debenham, for the response. And I recognise that lots of agencies and individuals are involved in this effort. I mean, the point is specifically about what this council is doing, and part of the motion that was carried by the council in November required it to, and I quote, work proactively to instigate a system of air quality monitoring in the residential areas closest to the industrial estate. Can you just clarify whether that's happened, and if so, whether the air quality data specifically will be made available to members and to the public.
Yeah, of course, that is all part of the ongoing assessment, and as well as air pollution, they'll be looking at noise pollution and pollution generated by traffic in and around the estate. The idea is to look at all potential risks to human health created by the sites and the cumulative effects or impacts on residents. And of course, we will publish the survey.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, Ralph Muntzer, please.
Thank you, Chair. To ask the Executive Member for the Environment what the recycling rate for North Hertfordshire is projected to be following the introduction of the new waste contract.
And to respond, Amy.
60%.
Supplementary?
Well, we do like a short and pithy answer, and please bear with me, Chair, because I do have a question at the end of this. But I wish to highlight Brownfield Way, which is in Blackmore End in the south of my ward, because half of Brownfield Way is located within the district of North Hertfordshire, half of it is located within the district of St Albans. Now, from August, from next month, residents in North Hertfordshire will have their bins collected once every 3 weeks, whereas the residents in St Albans will have their bins collected once every 2 weeks. So the question I have for Councillor Allen is, if St Albans can maintain one of the best recycling rates in the country of 64%, whilst also charging a lower rate of council tax, then why can't North Herts?
We don't have any control over what St Albans do with their services, and I'm quite proud of the pioneering service that we're providing to our residents in the changes that we're making regarding emissions and government legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matt Barnes.
Thank you, Chair. How many penalty charge notices were issued in council car parks in each locality during the periods March to May 2024 and March to May 2025? It's to Councillor on the right, please.
I'd like to thank Councillor Barnes for that question. I'm happy to provide the data by locality. So firstly, for Baldock, the number of penalty charge notices issued from March to May 2024 was 17. In the same period in 2025, it was 23. For Hitchin, for 24, it was 1,060. 25, 1,500. For Nebworth, in 24, it was 14. In 25, it was 10. In Letchworth, for 24, it was 217. In 25, it was 397. And finally, for Royston, the figure was for 24 was 258. And for 25, it was 316. And I should add that these figures include the display machines at Hitchin Swimming Centre and Norton Common.
Thank you, Donna. Supplementary?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for providing the information. Given the significant increase in a number of areas, do you feel that the council provided enough support and information to local residents and businesses during the rollout of the new parking machines?
Yes, there has been a lot of support. We are still reviewing the amount of support that we provide. Obviously, the installation of the new machines has taken time to bed down, and there has been an increase in PCNs as a result, but this is mostly due to visitors entering their vehicle registration numbers incorrectly. Hopefully with time, people will get used to the new system and realise that they have to remember their VRN and input it correctly. We also have to bear in mind that this year we now have a full team of CEOs compared to the same period last year, which means we've been able to provide more coverage for both on-street and off-street parking. And this has obviously contributed to an overall increase in the number of PCNs issued. But we need to bear in mind that PCNs only account for less than 1% of the total number of successful parking transactions made over the same period. But the team is continuing to provide support, and there will be a full report will go to ONS in September with further details on that.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you all for your questions and the responses. We have received one motion to consider. Paul Ward, I think, is going to update me on that?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to update on this following some of the information today. So since 2010, we've seen a series of cuts in central government funding here, and it works out to about 28% of the current year spend. And that means we're trying to find still 3 million more of savings a year already. And I do believe that further cuts will result in cuts to vital services for our residents. However, since I proposed the original motion, the government has announced the fair funding review, and our Director of Resources today was confirming he's working through the implication of the proposed complex model put through for consultation, which has to be responded to by the 15th of August by the administration. We don't know yet whether this will be favourable or detrimental to us, and I do remain seriously concerned. However, as my councillor in a responsible opposition party, I don't want to create division here just for the sake of it based on unknowns, but we will be holding the administration to account for defending the interests of our residents and businesses in this process. So given this is the case, I'm prepared to withdraw the motion as Councillor Albert is prepared to commit to consult the opposition group leaders and shadow finance portfolio holders on the draft of the recommendations before its submission. So Chair, if I can just ask Councillor Albert to confirm this, then I will be withdrawing the motion.
I'm happy to do that through the Chair. Ian Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Paul, for that statement. And yes, I'm very happy to confirm that we will absolutely consult with all the opposition parties around the response. I think it would be right to say that this fair funding review is long overdue. I think there are some risks there, but also actually I think when you look at our initial thinking around it, there are some real opportunities and potentially actually some additional funding, maybe some small additional funding for North Hertfordshire. But absolutely that it's still too early to say. I agree with you on that, but that's why I'm very happy to commit to that sharing of the response that we're going to make. Get your comments and we'll put those in. Protecting our residents and our businesses is top of our list as always, and we'll work with all the other parties to do that.
Thanks, Ian. On that basis, Paul, are you therefore withdrawing that motion?
Yeah.
You're withdrawing it, and Tina, obviously. Right, thank you very much indeed. Okay, that motion is withdrawn, so we have nothing to debate or go to. So we'll move on to item 8, which is nomination of representatives on outside organisations and other bodies, which is a completion of an item from previous. Mel is going to present this.
Thank you, Chair. I am not going to say very much on this other than to say we need to appoint tonight 3 members to the Howard Garden Social and Daycare Centre, to appoint a rep to the Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership, and to appoint a member to the Chilterns Conservation Board, Chair.
Okay, let's go. Right. 3 nominations from members for the Howard Garden Social and Daycare Centre, please. Ruth Brown.
I'd like to nominate Tina Bartwas.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for that? Claire, thank you very much indeed. Right, we have 1 nomination so far. I want 2 more. Don't all rush. Councillor Allen. Daniel.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find where we were on the papers because everything got moved around. Give me just one moment.
Oh, yeah? Sorry.
Oh no, I'm having to jump around everywhere. Yes, I'm trying to do that, Ruth, but
I'm just hoping you have 2 people to nominate for the Howard Garden Social and Daycare Centre.
It was the 2 that we put forward at annual. Yes. It was Councillor Thomas that we put forward and Councillor Debenham.
Okay, brilliant. So we have two more nominations. Councillor Tamsin Thomas, Councillor Mick Debenham. Can I have a seconder, please? Ian Albert seconds. Thank you very much indeed. We have three nominations. Are there any others? No. Okay. So I don't think there's any need for an election there. We have appointed Tina Bartos, Mick Debenham and Tamsin Thomas as representatives on the Howard Garden Social and Daycare Centre. Right, 2.2, Council nominate and approve Councillor Amy Allen as a representative of the Council on the outside organisation Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership. Can I have a proposer? Daniel? We've got to really, haven't we? And seconder? Councillor Val Bryant, seconds. Thank you very much indeed. Any further nominations? No, by acclamation then. Well done, Amy. And then 2.3, Council nominate and approve one member to the outside organisation, the Chilterns Conservation Board. Nominee, I think. Under the previous administration, it was the exec member. Daniel.
And I'm sure the exec member is going to be delighted when they are recommended for it again.
So you are nominating?
No, the current executive member. Does it still have to be the executive member, Mel?
It doesn't have to be, no.
No. I will be recommending myself.
Okay. And why not? Councillor Bryant.
I should second that proposal.
Okay. So we have Daniel Allen self-nominated and but duly seconded for the Chilterns Conservation Board. Anybody else? Daniel. That's very Trumpian of you.
Oh, you're going to pay for that one, Councillor Hoskins. I've had a request from someone that actually would like to be on it.
Oh, very good.
Honest.
Val.
Yes.
So you're now going. You can now nominate yourself.
I'd like to nominate
and
myself.
Daniel can second it. There you go. Let's swap it around.
Seconded.
Okay, Val Bryant then for the Chiltern Conservation Board. Going, gone. Right. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Cracking on. We go back now to fill in the rest of it. Annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Matt Barnes to present. Item Matt.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further to add to what's in the referral and in the report. So if anyone has any questions, let me know.
Any questions first off? Ruth.
I'd just like to put on record thanks to Councillor Matt Barnes and to Jeevan, the scrutiny officer, for the tremendous work that's been done in scrutiny. It's become much more effective over the last year with Matt's leadership and Jeevan's support. So I just want that to be put on record. Thank you very much.
It's noted, certainly. Daniel.
I would like to echo that. Matt, you did an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you very much. And only seeing from the first couple of meetings, but I'm looking forward to seeing Councillor Winchester continue that and make sure you hold us all to account. Thank you.
I'm sure that will happen. Ralph Munster.
No, Councillor Barnes, you've done an absolutely sterling job this year chairing ONS. As a member of the committee, you know, we've really been able to get into the grips of, you know, the decisions of which have been taken by council. You really have fostered a fantastic culture of scrutiny. I know that's going to continue under Councillor Winchester's leadership, but also to put on record my thanks to Jeevan for her support of the committee, but also for supporting me during the section, well, as we're undertaking the Section 106 task and finish group. She really has been invaluable. So thank you very much.
We're all patting everybody on the back, so that's good. The recommendation is that the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee 24-25 is attached to Appendix A be noted. Can I have a proposer? Ruth? Oh, Matt. Yes, you. John?
To propose.
Fine, thank you. Lots of you. Okay. I think you've done all your thanks. I can't see if there's any debate particularly. So let's go straight to the vote on that. Yes, got John, Ruth.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much indeed. The next one is the Revenue Budget Outturn 24-25. Daniel Allen to present the referral from Cabinet. Dan.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was you that was presenting them.
I do the full report, but you could just pass it.
I shall pass it on for the full report to Councillor Albert.
Cheers. Thanks, Chair, and obviously colleagues all can read the cabinet referral. But if I just really touch on some detail from the report, the decision of we're asking this evening from council is to approve the transfer to and from the reserves that's set out in Table 9 of the report. The most significant movements are to and from our MHCLG reserve. We use that reserve to hold business rate grants and any business rate surpluses, including gains from pooling. The release relates to timing differences and the budgeted use of gains to support general fund expenditures, noting that our budget is prudently based on our business rate baseline need rather than assuming any surpluses. For completeness, the whole year end monitoring report is provided to council, as well as the usual list of budget variances identified in the quarter, which is at Table 2. Appendix A summarises all the significant variances across the year. Whilst there's an underspend against budget and therefore an increase in our general fund balance, this should be considered in the light of the budgets that have been approved for carry forward. As referenced in paragraph 8.3, the carry forwards this year are total 1.682 million, so that will affect the spend forecast for 26-27. The reasons for the carry forwards are detailed across this report and previous monitoring reports, but clearly, as we set out before, one of the causes relates to resourcing and capacity, which we certainly tried to resolve in our last budget setting round. Paragraph 8.5 also details what happened in relation to budgets that were carried forward from 24-25 to 25-26. Paragraph 8.13 details the position on the business rates collection fund. We collect business rates on behalf of ourselves, the county council and government. We retain a small portion of what we collect, although this is improved by being part of a business rate pool, which we were in 24-25, but we're not in a pool this year. We're required to estimate amounts to set aside for changes to rating challenges. The number of challenges were fewer than expected, so we've been able to release a large proportion of the amount that was set aside. As we did this whilst in the pool, we get to retain more of that. This will flow into our general fund balance in 26-27. Paragraph 8.16 details our end of year general fund balance. This is subject to changes from when our accounts are audited, but it's currently at 16.081 million. If all the carry forward budgets are spent, then that would be the equivalent of £14.4 million. Previous decisions by council means there will be some one-off hits to that balance during 25-26 from the decarbonisation project in the form of costs of leisure centre closures and the CHP termination costs. However, the balance is still significantly above the recommended minimum balance. Paragraph 8.17 detail that while some of the budget risks came to fruition, there were less than the notional allocation. These were also managed within our overall budget. So whilst overall we have a good general fund balance, and I think that is a positive news to report, clearly, as we've talked about before in the budget round, there is still an underlying budget shortfall which we need to address. We've launched a budget consultation which runs until the 1st of August. I'd like to encourage all residents and obviously councillors here to encourage their residents to have their say. So far, which is really good, we've had over 500 responses. Clearly, once that consultation is included, once again, we'll be talking to our opposition groups about those responses and discussing next steps as we go into the autumn and through the budget workshops. So, Chair, I'd like to move the recommendation 2.1 in front of Council this evening that we approve the net transfer to earmarked reserves as identified in Table 9 of 1.06 million. I move, Chair.
Thank you. We have a proposer. Can we have a seconder to that? Councillor Allen, Daniel, thank you. And any debate, any questions on that? Councillor Munzer, I might have guessed.
Oh,
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Albert, thank you obviously for providing that update to us. I'm just looking at 8.2 Table 4, specifically the Strategic Priorities Fund. Now, I'm of course opposed to spending money unnecessarily, but am I right in thinking and reading here that actually Council didn't spend a penny of the Strategic Priorities Fund over the last financial year? Because that certainly is what it appears to me in the papers before me.
That's correct.
Done. Right. Matt Barnes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Albert. Just a question on tables 5 and table 6. There are a number of TBC items listed in there around penalty charge notices and car parking tickets sold. Is there, what's the reason that those are TBC, and is there any update on those figures, please?
I'd like Mr. Cooper like to respond to that.
There's still some issues resolving as part of closing down the accounts for the year. So we'll go get an update on those as soon as we can. But part of links to kind of getting the right reports at the right time out of the various systems we've got and making sure they're aligned to our financial accounting system. But we'll get on to those, so make sure update on those in future.
Sorry, will those be in the Q1 report for next time, or?
Yes, we can provide comparator in the Q1 report to make sure that's clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No, it's been duly proposed and seconded. The council approves this net transfer. Can we go to the vote, please?
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Susan. Right, we have item 11 now, and I think we have a declaration of interest.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I will declare my usual interest on the basis of my employment and go and get a coffee or something. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So item 11, investment strategy, end of year review. Am I going straight to Ian? Yeah, okay, Ian.
Cheers, thanks, Chair. And obviously, colleagues can read the cabinet referral, but this will really just reflects what I'm about to cover. A couple of recommendations in front of you: that we approve the 24-25 prudential and treasury indicators as detailed in Appendix B, and we note the annual treasury management review for 24-25 in Appendix B. Just for overall reporting for council, the focus of this report is to approve the position on our treasury and prudential indicators. They are detailed in Appendix B. The overall picture is that our capital spend has been lower than budgeted, a spend has been delayed, and some has not yet been required. That has meant, 1, we've had more cash to invest, and 2, we've been able to fund all of our capital expenditure from grants and capital receipts. We still have a negative capital financing requirement, which means we won't need to make a minimum revenue provision charge in the 25-26. Although we will move to having a positive capital financing requirement in 25-26. Completion of all remaining works on the playground renovation projects for 23-24. Paragraph 8.6 of the report sets out some of what has been achieved this year, and as you can see, the things like the Technology One implementation, the Old Hell Way allotments, the Newmarket Roads skate park, Orton Head common footpaths, Bancroft and Priory splash pads, the St John's Cemetery footpaths, Oval Spring footpaths, John Barker Place, and fantastic to get that done, and various leisure facilities refurbishment. And I think colleagues will be able to see in all of their areas across our district the practical benefit of these changes, for which we all of us here can be rightly proud. As well as having higher balances to invest, the rates of return have also stayed higher than was budgeted. This contributed to the almost £3 million of Treasury investment income over the year. Most of our investments were with other local authorities, as this was compliant with the strategy and provided higher returns than investing with banks and building societies. The Debt Management Office from government was used for short-term investment periods. The main report details the position on capital projects during the final quarter of the year. As referenced previously, capital spend has been less than was budgeted. This is generally that spend that now will be incurred in 25-26. I would highlight there was just one minor breach of investment limits for one day, which occurred due to the absence of a member of staff that was set out in paragraph 8.10 of the report. But clearly the council is looking into ways to ensure this situation won't happen again. But with a small team, it is very challenging to maintain the appropriate separation of duties amongst our staff. But with that, subject to those points, Chair, I'd like to move those two recommendations as set out in 2.1 and 2.2 and ask Council to adopt them.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Daniel Allen. Daniel, thank you. Any debate, any questions on any of that? I'm seeing none, so we'll go straight to the vote, please.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Fine, thank you. Oh, perfectly timed, Paul. Well done. Right, item 12, Finance Audit and Risk Committee Annual Report. Sean Nolan to present, please. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Chair. Thank you. So it's a pleasure to bring this report before Council tonight. During the year 24-25, the committee experienced, I think it's fair to say, a very high turnover of membership, with myself being the only continuing member. So there was a slight risk, I think, of the effectiveness of the committee being slightly done down at that point. However, very pleased to report that all new members and substitutes very quickly picked up the role. We've been able to continue the roles expected of us in terms of reviewing the work of the council, looking through the finance and the audit and risk elements, and ensuring that that scrutiny is provided in the correct manner. Notable, I think it's fair to say, is the fact that the council is moving back to a position where the annual reports are all on time. I think particularly in terms of the word has gone from my head. I should have written it down, shouldn't I? There we go. The accounts at the moment almost being back on schedule. It's something that's affected the entire councils across the country. However, I think with our external auditors, we are now in a position where we're almost back onto the expected schedule. So that's pleasing to report. There's a few thanks to go through. Firstly, to John Cannon, our independent member, who has been extremely effective in his role. Alongside this, particularly Chris Wood from the Shared Internal Audit Service, our internal auditors, as well as Salma Yunus and her team at KPMG, who are now on board as our external auditors. Primary thanks go to Ian Cooper and his team for all the work, and particularly the help to myself in ensuring that I'm able to do the role I do. It would be very difficult without them. And a big thanks to particularly all the members who have very quickly, as I said, ramped up into the roles expected of them. It's not the easiest committee, I feel, to sit on sometimes, given the type of reports we get and the level of detail. However, the level of scrutiny and the suggestions and questions raised have all been, I think, very high quality, and have allowed us in many cases to update and change, I think, some of the ways that we receive information. That's made it easier for us this year to process it. So yes, very happy to put forward the recommendation 2.1 to the council and to propose this recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Sean. So the recommendations we have been proposed. Can I have a seconder, please? Ian Albert, thank you very much indeed. Any debate on that, or shall we go straight to the vote? We're being asked to note the annual report. We'll go to the vote, please.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Susan. And I think we're on to the final one now, which is the report on risk management governance, the year-end update. Shall I go straight to Ian on this? Thank you.
Cheers, thanks, Chair. And the report in front of the council to note the report. The report describes our activities in relation to risk management. It's a combination of what's happened during 24-25 and the position at the end of the year. What we're trying to show is that there is active risk management, which includes regular risk reviews, obviously with our colleagues on the Finance Audit and Risk Committee, of course, and mitigating actions for existing risks, as well as identifying new risks. We've identified sort of new risks during the year, like the local government reorganisation, and clearly we'll obviously make sure that we keep a very close eye on those things. The report goes beyond pure risk management and considers both insurance, business continuity, emergency planning, and health and safety. Paragraph 12.1 details performance against risk actions for 24-25, and 12.2 sets the actions going forward for 25-26. So we're asking, obviously, Council to consider and note the report in front of you, and obviously that the way the risk is being managed across the council, and I'll ask for Council to note that report, and I'm happy to move.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Daniel Allen, seconds. So we are being asked to note the report, been proposed and seconded. Is there any debate on that? Seeing none, so we'll go to the vote, please.
Chair.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Paul.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'd just probably like to note for the council, I think this has obviously been involved in some of this with FAR, but very, very thorough, and hopefully that I think page 443 is identifying the biggest risks that the council's facing, which is financial sustainability, local government reorg, and resourcing, and hopefully that reflects the views of the councillors in general. So, and thank you.
Just a few risks. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. There is no one else, so we will go to the vote on that, please.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you very much. With that, I wish you all an incredibly pleasant summer. If any of your local groups have events going on, if they care to let me know and they want a bit of bling, I'll come along and make my representation of North Herts District Council. The next full council meeting is on the 2nd of October. Is it this weekend?